Imagine standing on the edge of hope, clinging to a promise that could change your life forever, only to have that hope shattered in an instant. Picture yourself selling everything you own, saying an emotional farewell to your family, and boarding a plane to a new world with dreams of prosperity in your heart. Now, imagine the gut-wrenching moment when you step off that plane and the world you expected to find is nothing but a cruel mirage, a promise of a job that never existed, a future that crumbles before your eyes. This is not a scene from a fictional thriller. It's the stark reality faced by thousands of African migrants, each lured by the tantalizing promise of a better life in the United Kingdom. In a desperate bid to escape poverty and despair, these hopeful souls are duped by sophisticated scams that drain their life savings and leave them stranded in an alien land. The deeper you look into this dark underworld of deception, the more you realize this is a meticulously orchestrated crime, where every detail is designed to exploit vulnerability and crush dreams. In the quiet hours before dawn, as the first light of hope flickers on the horizon, scammers are already at work. Under the cover of darkness, they weave elaborate webs of lies. Their tools are not weapons of physical harm, but insidious words and false promises. They present themselves as trusted insiders, claiming to have direct access to UK employers desperate for skilled workers. Their message is simple yet irresistible. Come to the UK, secure your future, and work in prestigious care homes with competitive wages. It's a siren call for those left with nothing but the desire to change their fate. Yet behind these comforting assurances lies a grim truth. The job offers are nothing more than phantom opportunities, meticulously crafted to lure unsuspecting migrants into a trap. For many, the journey begins with a seemingly legitimate promise from figures like Dr. Kelvin Alaneme, a respected name in the community, a man who wears the mantle of authority and trust. His agency, adorned with slick marketing and professional advice, radiates an air of legitimacy that belies the criminal intent beneath. It's a masterful performance, drawing in those who dare to dream of a brighter tomorrow. Picture the emotional roller coaster of a migrant like Praise, a young man who believed that this was his chance to escape the relentless grip of poverty. With every sacrifice he made, every bit of savings he scrimped together, Praise was convinced that his efforts would be rewarded with a secure job and a new beginning. The excitement of a new country, the promise of financial stability, and the allure of social mobility blinded him to the warning signs. Every step he took was filled with anticipation, yet every moment was steeped in an underlying tension, a silent prelude to the betrayal that awaited him. As Praise embarked on his perilous journey, his mind was filled with visions of success. He imagined a life where his children could attend good schools, where his family would live without fear of financial ruin, and where every morning brought with it a fresh start. The train of thought was both comforting and intoxicating, luring him deeper into the scam's labyrinth. The scammers exploited this very human vulnerability, our need for hope and change, by promising that one simple step, one payment, could unlock a future free of hardship. But what happens when that dream dissolves into a waking nightmare? When the plane lands and reality slams into you like a tidal wave? For Praise, the truth was brutally revealed in the desolate corridors of a UK care home that never truly existed. Instead of warm welcomes and promising opportunities, he was met with confusion and despair, a stark reminder that he had been deceived. The building stood silent, its empty halls echoing with the shattered remnants of his dreams. There was no employment waiting for him, no supportive network to catch him when he fell. All that remained was a void, filled with the bitter taste of betrayal and regret. Now, imagine this scenario repeated hundreds, even thousands of times across the country. Each migrant, full of hope and determination, steps into the unknown, only to find themselves ensnared in a system rigged against them. The scam isn't just about stolen money. It's about stolen futures, stolen dignity, and the irreversible damage inflicted on lives already burdened with struggle. The deeper the investigation goes, the more chilling the picture becomes. It's not merely the story of one man's misfortune. It's an epidemic of exploitation, a systematic abuse of trust that spans borders and devastates communities. In the shadows of this deception, every minute detail adds to the eerie suspense. The clock ticks slowly in a dimly lit room where an undercover journalist listens intently to secret recordings. Every word, every hushed conversation between the scammers is a piece of a larger, horrifying puzzle. The recordings reveal a network of conspiracies, schemes meticulously planned and executed with chilling precision. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger, organized criminal enterprise that capitalizes on the desperation of those seeking a better life. The ambience is almost cinematic. Rain pattering against dark windows, the low hum of whispered conspiracies in smoky backrooms, and the stark contrast between the bright promises made online and the bleak reality on the ground. It's a narrative that grips you, pulling you into a vortex of suspense and horror, where every detail is a clue and every moment holds the potential for a shocking twist. As you listen, you can almost feel the cold dread that these migrants experienced, the shattering realization that they had been duped by someone they once trusted. This is more than just an introduction. It is an invitation into a world where hope and despair collide in a relentless battle for survival. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about exploitation and the lengths to which people will go when driven by desperation. In this chilling narrative, the lines between victim and perpetrator blur, and the true cost of deceit is measured not just in pounds lost, but in lives forever changed. So, as you prepare to journey deeper into this story, ask yourself, how many more have been caught in this invisible web of lies? What drives these scammers to prey on the vulnerable? And how can justice ever be served in a system that seems to favor the ruthless? This is not just a tale of scams and lost dreams. It's a mirror reflecting the darker side of human ambition and the tragic consequences of misplaced trust. Stay with us as we peel back the layers of deception, uncover the shocking truths behind the promises made, and reveal the hidden network that continues to manipulate and destroy lives. In the next segment, we will dive into the setup of this elaborate scam, introducing you to the key players, the intricate schemes, and the heart-wrenching stories of those who fell prey to it. But for now, let the weight of this opening hook sink in. Remember, every great story begins with a spark of hope, only to be consumed by the flames of betrayal. If you've ever trusted a promise that turned out to be a lie, and share your thoughts on the dark side of hope in today's world as we examine this story in depth. The investigation began in a haze of uncertainty, driven by the mounting evidence that something sinister was lurking beneath the polished surface of promises and hopeful job offers. As whispers of fraudulent job placements spread like wildfire through migrant communities, a small team of determined investigators, journalists, former immigration officials, and courageous victims joined forces to peel back the layers of deception. Their mission was clear: expose the intricate web of lies that had ensnared thousands of hopeful souls. In a cramped, dimly lit room in London, an undercover journalist set up a covert operation that would soon turn into a battle against time and treachery. Rain pounded the window, each droplet echoing the heartbeat of a city unaware of the storm brewing within its borders. The journalist's eyes, determined and unyielding, scanned a series of documents, photographs, and audio recordings that painted a chilling picture. A network of scammers, led by a man they called Dr. Kelvin Alaneme, whose polished facade masked a criminal mastermind. It wasn't long before the first breakthrough came. A victim, Praise, stepped forward, his voice trembling as he recounted his journey of shattered dreams. Praise had been one of the many who believed that a legitimate job awaited him in the UK. "I trusted him," Praise whispered, his eyes welling with tears, "because he seemed genuine, and his promises were like a beacon in my darkest hour." Every word he spoke resonated with the pain of someone who had invested not just money, but hope into a future that quickly turned into a nightmare. Determined to uncover the truth, the team painstakingly gathered evidence. They began by tracing the financial transactions that funneled thousands of pounds into offshore accounts, linked to Dr. Alaneme's operation. Each bank statement was a thread in the tapestry of the scam, evidence that the money wasn't going to any legitimate business, but was instead vanishing into a labyrinth of shell companies and secretive accounts. Forensic accountants worked tirelessly, their screens illuminated by spreadsheets and transaction records, each number a stark reminder of lives ruined by greed. Meanwhile, the undercover journalist, armed with hidden cameras and discreet recording devices, began to attend secret meetings arranged by insiders within the scam network. In a smoky backroom of an inconspicuous office building on the outskirts of London, he recorded a conversation that sent chills down his spine. "They're not even running care homes," a voice confessed in a hushed tone. "We're selling dreams on a piece of paper, cost certificates that guarantee nothing but false hope." Every syllable was a revelation, a confirmation of what many had suspected, that the scam was not a series of isolated incidents, but a well-organized criminal enterprise exploiting the vulnerable. As the investigation unfolded, the scope of the scam grew more alarming. It wasn't just Dr. Alaneme at the helm. He was merely the face of a vast network of complicit recruiters, corrupt agents, and even some negligent employers. One particularly disturbing lead involved a company called Efficiency for Care. On paper, Efficiency for Care appeared to be a small operation, but records showed it had issued over 1,000 certificate of sponsorship costs, certificates in 1 year, a number that far exceeded what any legitimate care provider could manage. This discrepancy raised immediate red flags. Interviewing current and former employees of Efficiency for Care painted a picture of confusion and disbelief. One employee, who chose to remain anonymous, described a scene of disarray. "We were given documents to process, but the actual care homes were either non-existent or operating on a shoestring budget. The pressure was immense, yet nobody was held accountable." The anonymous source's testimony added a layer of urgency to the investigation, revealing that the scam was not only a matter of financial fraud, but also a severe breach of trust, putting the lives and well-being of vulnerable migrants at risk. Forensic experts were brought in to analyze digital footprints left behind by the scammers. Every email, every online transaction, every digital breadcrumb was scrutinized. The investigation uncovered a series of communications between Dr. Alaneme and several unknown entities. In one damning email chain, he discussed securing a batch of cost certificates for an upcoming wave of applicants, and mentioned that the money should be transferred to a special account immediately after confirming the applicant's details. The cold, calculated language of these emails spoke volumes about the premeditated nature of the operation. In parallel, secret recordings from the undercover journalist became the cornerstone of the investigation. In one particularly chilling conversation, Dr. Alaneme casually mentioned, "We know they're desperate. That's why they pay without a second thought. And once they're here, they realize too late that there's no job, no safety net. They're just another number in our ledger." The raw, unfiltered nature of the conversation not only confirmed suspicions, but also exposed the depth of callousness behind the scam. It was a moment that encapsulated the entire tragedy. A life of hope reduced to a statistic in a criminal enterprise. As the investigation deepened, more victims began to come forward, each with their own harrowing story. One woman recounted how she had taken out loans and sold personal belongings to pay for the service that promised her a secure job in the UK. "I had no idea," she said through tears, "that I was signing away my future for a lie. Now I'm stranded in a foreign land, feeling abandoned and desperate." Her words were a stark reminder of the human cost of such scams, where trust was manipulated and futures were bartered away. A series of interviews with migrants painted a vivid and heartbreaking picture of isolation and despair. In cramped living conditions, far from the supportive networks they once had, these individuals struggled not only with financial ruin, but also with a profound sense of betrayal. The emotional toll was palpable. Many spoke of sleepless nights, haunted by dreams of what could have been. Their voices, laden with sorrow and regret, provided the emotional core of the investigation, urging the team to press on despite the overwhelming odds. Realizing that exposing the scam required more than just interviews and financial records, the investigative team decided to launch a sting operation. With the cooperation of a few brave insiders, they set up a fake job inquiry, a trap designed to catch the scammers red-handed. The plan was meticulous. A hopeful applicant would contact the scam network, make the requisite payment, and arrange to receive a cost certificate. Every step was monitored, recorded, and most importantly, documented. The sting operation unfolded with a tension that was almost cinematic. Under the flickering neon lights of a nondescript office, the fake applicant's call was answered by a smooth-talking operator. The conversation was recorded in its entirety. "Yes, we guarantee your placement," the operator assured. "All you need to do is transfer the fee, and your cost certificate will be on its way." The casual tone of the operator, the rehearsed script, and the underlying confidence in his voice all pointed to an operation that was well-oiled and highly organized. As the fake applicant followed the instructions, the transfer of funds was tracked in real time. The financial experts on the team marveled at the precision of the scam. Money flowed into an account that, upon later investigation, was linked to multiple shell companies spread across different jurisdictions. The sting not only confirmed the scammers' methods, but also provided a trove of evidence that could potentially be used in legal proceedings. The deeper the team delved into the investigation, the more they began to understand the gravity of what they were uncovering. It wasn't just about money or fraud. It was about the systematic destruction of lives built on dreams of a better future. Every piece of evidence, every recorded conversation, and every tearful testimony from a victim added weight to the investigation, fueling the investigators' resolve to bring the culprits to justice. Late nights became a routine. In the quiet hours after the city had fallen asleep, the team would huddle together in their makeshift office, poring over the evidence. The air was heavy with exhaustion, yet charged with an unspoken determination. One investigator, whose hands trembled as he reviewed a recording, later recalled, "It was as if I was hearing the echoes of 1,000 broken dreams. I knew then that we had to do everything in our power to expose this horror." The emotional toll was not confined to the investigators alone. Even those who had initially joined the investigation out of journalistic curiosity found themselves deeply affected by the stories of betrayal and loss. In interviews with migrants who had been left destitute by the scam, the raw emotion was palpable. A mother recounted how her hopes for her children's future were dashed, leaving her with a profound sense of helplessness. "I sacrificed everything for them," she said, her voice barely audible, "and now I'm left with nothing but regret." One of the most astonishing revelations came when forensic analysis linked the scam's financial trail to a complex web of companies spread across multiple countries. Dr. Alaneme. It turned out was not acting alone. Behind him was an international consortium of fraudsters, each playing a specific role in the grand deception. Some provided the false documentation, others handled the transfer of funds, and a few even posed as legitimate employers in meticulously maintained websites and fake business profiles. The investigation revealed that the entire operation was set up to appear as a legitimate recruitment process. Official-looking websites, complete with testimonials and images of smiling employees, masked the underlying fraud. The scammers even went so far as to register these sites with professional web hosting services, ensuring that any casual observer would be convinced of their authenticity. It was a masterclass in deception, an intricate performance art where every actor played their part flawlessly. As more evidence emerged, the urgency to act grew. The investigators knew that with every passing day, more migrants were falling victim to the scam. A palpable sense of urgency gripped the team as they coordinated with legal experts, forensic accountants, and even sympathetic immigration officials who had become aware of the unfolding disaster. Plans were made to hand over the evidence to law enforcement agencies in both the UK and the migrants' home countries, in the hope that swift action could prevent further tragedies. One particularly harrowing incident underscored the stakes. In a remote town in Nigeria, a young man who had been enticed by the promise of a secure job in the UK was found wandering the streets, penniless and desperate. His family had invested everything they had into his future, only to see him return broken and disillusioned. This wasn't an isolated case. It was a pattern, a ripple effect of the scam that extended far beyond the borders of the UK. The emotional testimonies and the stark images of despair only deepened the investigators' resolve to see justice done. Public awareness was another crucial front in the battle against the scam. As the investigation progressed, the team began to leak details of their findings to trusted media outlets, creating a wave of public outcry. Social media exploded with stories of betrayal and heartbreak as more victims stepped forward, emboldened by the promise that their voices could finally be heard. Online forums and community groups dedicated to migrant issues became hubs of conversation, with users sharing their own experiences and urging authorities to take action. The media coverage amplified the emotional impact of the investigation. News reports showed tearful interviews with victims, heart-wrenching footage of empty, dilapidated living conditions, and even the moment when one undercover recording captured a scam operator casually laughing about the misery they had inflicted. These images and stories struck a deep chord with audiences, turning the investigation into a rallying cry against exploitation and corruption. Every interview, every financial record, and every secret recording was a piece of a larger puzzle. Slowly, the investigators began to see the full picture, a network that operated across borders, feeding on the desperation of those seeking a fresh start. They documented the journey of funds from local banks in Nigeria, through international money transfer services, to the hidden accounts of shell companies. They mapped out the digital trail left by emails and online transactions, each clue pointing back to the heart of the scam. A breakthrough came when a whistleblower, a former employee of one of the implicated recruitment agencies, provided internal documents that detailed the scam's inner workings. The documents revealed a sophisticated operation, recruitment pitches scripted to perfection, fake job offers circulated through social media, and even a dedicated call center handling inquiries from hopeful migrants. It was clear that this was not a spontaneous fraud, but a premeditated enterprise with a long-term strategy to exploit vulnerable populations. Throughout the investigation, the emotional fallout was evident not only in the testimonies of the victims, but also in the faces of those on the investigative team. Every new piece of evidence was a stark reminder of the human cost of greed. The investigators often found themselves overwhelmed by the stories of loss, stories that spoke of families torn apart, dreams deferred, and lives reduced to a state of constant struggle. One evening, after a particularly harrowing day of interviews, one of the lead investigators broke down in tears. "How do we measure the worth of a life?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. "How do we quantify the pain of a mother who has lost everything for the promise of a better future?" It was a question that resonated deeply with everyone present, a somber reflection on the true cost of the scam. But it was also a call to action, a reminder that this investigation was not just about uncovering fraud, but about restoring hope to those who had been abandoned by a system designed to protect them. In the midst of the darkness, there were moments of unexpected courage. Some victims, once paralyzed by despair, began to reclaim their voices. They attended community meetings, spoke at local gatherings, and shared their stories with the hope that their experiences could prevent others from falling prey to similar scams. These brave individuals became symbols of resilience, their testimonies serving as a counterpoint to the cruelty of those who had deceived them. The sting operation, combined with the flood of public evidence, forced the authorities to take notice. Law enforcement agencies launched parallel investigations, and soon, the names behind the scam were circulated among officials. The investigation began to intersect with legal proceedings, with forensic evidence and recorded conversations providing the necessary ammunition to dismantle the network piece by piece. As the investigation drew closer to its climax, the team faced one final challenge: ensuring that those responsible for the scam would be held accountable. Coordinating with international law enforcement was a daunting task, given the transnational nature of the fraud. Yet, buoyed by the collective will of the investigators and the emotional testimonies of the victims, every effort was made to compile a comprehensive case against the perpetrators. A series of raids and arrests followed, as authorities moved in on key figures within the network. While justice was far from complete, the impact was undeniable. A clear message that exploitation would no longer be tolerated. The scars left by the scam were deep, and the journey to full accountability was just beginning. But for the victims and their families, every small victory was a beacon of hope in an otherwise dark landscape. By the time the investigation's findings were published, the story had taken on a life of its own. It was more than just an expose. It was a movement. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions, and news outlets ran in-depth reports on the systemic issues that allowed such scams to flourish. The emotional intensity of the story had not only exposed a criminal enterprise, but had also ignited a national conversation about the responsibilities of governments, employers, and communities in protecting the most vulnerable. For the investigators, the journey had been both professional and deeply personal. Each interview, each tearful testimony, and each recorded conversation reinforced the need to fight against injustice. The investigation had opened a window into the lives of those who had been misled and abandoned, urging society to confront the harsh realities of exploitation head-on. As the investigation entered its final stages, the team knew that their work was far from over. The evidence they had painstakingly gathered would serve as a foundation for future legal battles and policy reforms. The voices of the victims, once silenced by fear and desperation, had now found an echo in the halls of justice. The investigation was a call to action, a reminder that the fight against fraud and exploitation was a battle that required vigilance, compassion, and unwavering resolve. In the end, the investigation was more than a story of deceit. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was an unyielding demand for accountability, a plea for justice, and a beacon of hope for all those who had ever been misled by promises that turned out to be empty. And as the final pieces of evidence were compiled, one question remained echoing in the minds of everyone involved. How many more lives would be saved when the truth finally prevailed? The investigation, with its long nights, relentless pursuit of evidence, and the emotional toll of hearing countless stories of broken dreams, had become a crusade against injustice. It was a fight not only for justice for the victims, but also for a future where hope was not exploited for profit. This chapter of the story, marked by its grit, determination, and profound emotional depth, would serve as a rallying cry for change, a call for society to stand up and protect those most vulnerable from the scourge of modern-day fraud. If this story sent shivers down your spine and sparked your outrage, hit that like button and share it with everyone you care about. We want to know, do you believe the authorities are doing enough to protect vulnerable migrants? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Every opinion matters and could help shine a light on hidden injustices. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more deep dives into stories that demand justice. Follow us on social media to join our growing community of truth seekers and activists, where your voice can truly make a difference. Your engagement isn't just support, it's a call for accountability. Together, we can expose scams that shatter lives and force those in power to act. Share this video, comment, and let's start a conversation about the real cost of broken promises and exploited hope. Stay tuned, stay informed, and most importantly, stay vigilant. Your voice is the spark that can ignite change.